Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Bookmark. My name is Kayla, and today we are doing a book review, which we haven't done in a while here on YouTube. Mostly because life got crazy. I was in school, but finally was able to finish a book to review for you guys. So today we are going to be reviewing Tender is the Flesh. It's a pretty short book that actually kind of started off as a short story that then got added onto. The book is actually set into two parts, which initially I wasn't too sure why, but it makes sense as you go through the book why it's separated into two different parts. So this book, I initially heard about it through Book Talk. It wasn't like as big as like some of like the Colleen Hoover books that were on Book Talk, but it definitely, I saw it in a few videos and it caught my eye because a lot of people were saying that it was like dystopian type of genre, and I really like dystopian type books, so I really wanted to take a shot at it. What was pretty cool is that it's also somewhat classified as a horror in the horror genre as well, which I don't really read that much horror. Mostly Michael reads horror books, so if you've been seeing our book reviews on Instagram about any Stephen King books, that's because that is what Michael reads. But I don't read that stuff, so not because I don't want to, but it just hasn't really caught my attention until now. But I think I might be reading more horror in the future. I'm not too sure about that. But anyways, so as a little synopsis, so Tender is the Flesh is actually so it's a dystopian novel, and it talks about how at one point there is a virus that starts to affect all animals, and essentially all the animals die, or they have to be killed because they're afraid that the virus is then going to infect humans. And so basically all the animals are dead, but people still want meat. There's, what we have now is like this large meat industry, and the best way to fill in that spot is to use humans, which is where this book starts to become more horror-like. I will say some trigger warnings for this book. This is definitely not a book for anyone younger than 18. It deals with a little bit more complicated topics. It does go into detail with how the meatpacking industry works, but with using humans rather than animals in that same process. So those are some trigger warnings. Also, cannibalism's involved in this, so take that with how you will. I will also say that a loss of a child is a predominant story narrative that is going on in this book, so if any of those things kind of bring up some bad memories or trigger you, please don't read this book. But of course, y'all know how you are, you know how you'll react to this, so just bring those out there for people to take into mind when they're going out for this book. But yeah, so to get into it, this book like, it's short, like you can tell. I mean, it's, I think, 209 pages if I'm not mistaken. I will correct myself if that is not the case, but it took a while to read, not only because like I was in school and everything, but there's just some times where I was reading the book and some of the things that were like, I'm not the type of person to like get like icky about things or be like, that if there's something gruesome, like I don't really get like nauseated or anything by it. I mean, I've literally watched like The Walking Dead with all the zombies and killing and everything while like eating food, so like it doesn't really get to me. But reading this book, definitely I had to stop. I had to take some breaks while I was reading this book to kind of like gather myself and to just be like, what did I just read? Because this book will make you do that. It will make you really think, what on earth am I reading? If you can get through the book, congrats. But definitely, I do not blame you if you cannot get to the end of this book because of just how gruesome it is. I mean, there's even some parts where like you could probably skip a few pages to get past the gruesome parts. But to be quite honest, a large majority of the book is quite gruesome. But it is kind of like, it's something interesting to think about, as in like, it kind of reminds me how people describe The Handmaid's Tale, which, if you're not familiar with The Handmaid's Tale, is also a book that's categorized as a dystopia, in which women are then used in households because the fertility rate is gone down and everything, and so they're then used as like live-in surrogates, but by force, to have kids for like wealthy families. But in other words, basically, like, it's kind of, I was almost wondering if the author was commenting on like how much we depend on meat as like a protein in our diets, and like how like people kind of look down on like veganism or vegetarianism, and like that's why this book was made. There is like a big like extreme that's put onto like, oh, what if there's no animals and nothing, how would it pan out? So she really does push it to the extreme, like, you know, if this were to happen and the dominoes fall this way, we're going to be eating people and thinking of them more as like cattle rather than people. So like, there's definitely things that could say that this could happen, but again, like in the more like extreme version of what's going on today. It was pretty interesting to see, especially when they're describing the like how meat gets processed, which I was surprised that they went in so much detail, which is what makes me think that maybe it might be like a commentary on the meat packaging industry and like what really goes on in there and like the atrocities that go on there. Because it was basically like what happens now for animals is basically what they adapted the same way for humans, with like slight variations, but like it's pretty much the same. So I'm kind of wondering if that was done intentionally. My gut feeling says yes, but it made me really glad that I'm vegetarian, actually. So I was reading this and I was like, that sounds disgusting. But our main character in this story, which another thing about the book is that it's written, I think, more like in third person, but we're able to find out like the thoughts and feelings of our main character, Marcos. So it does follow like a Latino kind of like family situation. So Marcos is our main character. He used to work as like the person who would contact all the, like, he was kind of like the contact for like the meat packing, like the processing plant, and who were the farmers who breeded, or the breeding centers, I think is what they called it. And he used to do that in what they call the transition. And the transition, the transition is basically where it's like how it says, where like the population decided to go from like eating animals to, now that the virus has happened, and transition over into eating humans. So everyone calls it the transition in this book, because as Marcos commonly says throughout the book, is that people were using different words to make it more digestible, which like, bad choice of wording, but it's essentially what goes on, is that they're using just different words to say, like, to kind of cover up how grotesque the whole situation is. I mean, I kind of like felt for Marcos the first half of this book. You know, he's really down on his luck. He's like really like critical of the whole system, yet he's still part of it. And in a way, it's almost like he can't find a way to break out of this cycle, because if he doesn't work, like, this is all he knows, because this is what he was taught before the transition. And he, you know, he can't let go of his job because that's how he takes care of his dad. And it's this point in the book, it doesn't quite give a lot of details. Like, it doesn't give too much details to where you're like, okay, I know exactly the whole history and that's it. It still leaves like some things up to like question, as in like, when exactly did this happen, what year, that I can kind of like figure out. It seems that as if like, so Marcos has like a niece and nephew and they're twins and like it kind of gives like Shining vibes because like he describes them as like kind of creepy, but they seem to have grown up in almost entirely with this transition because they don't seem to like really remember the before, and they also don't really seem to like be too bothered by the fact that they're eating humans. So like it's only really like Marcos's generation and like the generation above him, so like his dad, that like really truly remember what it was like before the transition, and then they're like the ones really commenting on like how weird it is. Although some people don't seem too bothered with it, or at least like on surface level don't seem bothered by it. So that is kind of what's going on in this book. There's a lot of things happening. Without kind of spoiling this book, I can see why it was put into two parts. So Marcos at the second half of this book kind of takes a turn for what he thinks about. So it's what they call head. They, instead of calling them people, they call like the people that are, or the humans that are raised to be eaten, they call them head, which I wonder if that's somewhat what like the meat packaging industry or the meat industry calls cattle. I'm not too sure about that, but I wonder if that's like a parallel to like that's what they did in order to make it seem more normal. But definitely something that's pretty cool seeing through Marcos's point of view is that to him everything seems like not normal, that this is definitely something that shouldn't be normalized, but to everyone else it is very normalized. I mean, I'm just gonna say that the second half of this book really took a turn for Marcos. I mean, he was critical in the first half, and the second half I don't know what's going on with him. There's definitely like some crises that happen in his life that really make him take a turn towards like not cannibalism, but towards something else. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because if not, that's kind of spoiling a little too much. I will say that by far the ending had me like, what? The ending pretty much signals like Marcos's like transition from like what he started off and then like how he's ended. And it's so weird because it almost took me off. Like you could kind of see it if you look back on it. You're like, okay, I can see where this is like a slow progression to where he's at. But I mean, when I first finished it, I was just like, what happened? Again, I was like kind of like thinking, what did I just read? So that's pretty much how I felt about the entire book. I do have mixed feelings about this, because I would only recommend this to people who like are not too too bothered by like how grotesque it gets. I also would only recommend this to people who are more into dystopian futures and whatnot, because it does get like, not, I don't want to say political, but in a way, if you're someone who's like a meat eater and you're like a diehard meat eater, like this might turn you off from like eating meat, or it might just make you really upset, because it at some points it does seem like there is something to be said that like maybe you should go vegan or vegetarian or eat less meat, or for like advocate for better practices for animals in this process. But I don't know, I hope that translates well to what I'm trying to say. But anyways, so I actually recently started a reading journal. I didn't get to write in my notes exactly, but because I just started this, I actually made this myself. I'm still trying to like work out the kinks with like it trying to work on like GoodNotes and on my iPad, but I'll let y'all know if this ever becomes available. But I just wanted to say that like my favorite quote from this book, which I actually wrote in as like exactly on page 209, which is like, this is technically the last sentence of the book. I wrote the page number because of my history background. I'm just programmed that way, but so if you wanted to look for it. But basically, this is the quote. It's pretty, not giving too much out there, but so it says, she had the human look of a domesticated animal, which is, you know, take what you will with that. It seems kind of vague, but when you read the book and you realize that that's going to be the last sentence, like that to me, like I kind of like had to put the book down. I mean, obviously I was done with it already, but I put the book down and was like, what did I just read? But yeah, so that's the book review for y'all. We're actually doing, so for this, when this video comes up, it's gonna be like towards like the end of May, end of May, whatever. But we're basically gonna be doing a summer reading challenge on this channel. So I'm really gonna try to get to 12 books over the summer. I'm really hoping that I can accomplish that. Summer for me ends in like the beginning of August. So we'll probably gonna take it to the end of August. That's probably when we're gonna end this challenge. But I'll be updating, or Michael will be updating the Instagram page just to reflect like what our summer challenges look like. I believe Michael's also gonna be doing this too, and he's probably gonna have like more science fiction, more horror books on his reading list. I'm probably gonna have like a whole range of things. I have a couple books that some of my friends have recommended. Some of them are more on the romance side, some of them are more like fantasy side, so stick for that. But just to show y'all, this is what it looks like. I made mine look pretty and cute. So basically I already like colored in, I wish this would focus. Yay, it focused. Okay, so I already filled in Tenders of Flesh right there. I colored in my book. And now I'm just waiting for my other books to include in this challenge. I'm really hoping I can I can do the 12 books. That would be great if I could. I haven't read 12 books in a whole year worth in like 3 years or so, because I've been in school, but I will have graduated by the time this video is up. So hopefully I can actually read a little bit more. So I'm hoping this helps me. Yeah, if y'all want to also increase your reading over the summer, follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle will be in the description below. You can follow us there. We update more regularly on our Instagram than we do on YouTube, although I will be trying to post more videos on YouTube for you guys. So, and especially that will help me read more books to review for you guys, and hopefully I will be able to have access to my full library soon. I've been kind of like moving right now, and we can do some more like bookish content, like what's my to be read list, or what books did I like or didn't like. But yeah, thank you all for watching this video. Don't forget to like, to subscribe to our channel, and to make sure to check out our Instagram page. Thank you all. Bye.